Tonight at 10, England secure a Euros victory against Switzerland on penalties, winning a place in the semi-finals. Back home, England supporters were ecstatic, their loyalty finally and richly rewarded.
I'm live here in Dusseldorf, where England are now just one win away from a first ever final overseas at a major tournament.
Also tonight, the new Prime Minister sets out his priorities, including an aim to reduce prison numbers by cutting reoffending. And Sir Andy Murray's Wimbledon career comes to an earlier end than planned. Good evening. England are through to the semi-finals of the Euros after their quarter-final match against Switzerland went down to the wire, ending in a nail-biting penalty shootout. Well, our sports editor Dan Rowan is at Dusseldorf Arena for us tonight. Dan.
Reeta, after a series of lacklustre performances, there was a real sense coming into this match that England would have to raise their game if they were to beat the best team they'd faced to date here at these Euros in Switzerland. Many predicted a tight affair, and so it proved. This what it meant to those who'd feared they were going home.
Well, that didn't take long.
Faced with extra time again in his 100th, with 5 perfect penalties and Pickford's decisive save, England had prevailed.
England go through!
I'm going to put it up there for sure, yeah. It was special. You know, how we fought back and, you know, to go to penalties as well. Last time we took a penalty shoot at the Euros, you all know what happened. So, yeah, I'm so proud of everyone that we got over the line.
Personal as it's been the last few weeks, on a human level, that's quite difficult. But we're fighting. We're not going to stop fighting. And, as I said, we're in another semi-final.
I thought we played well today. Best performance of the tournament so far. Deserving winners, I think, just about.
I've been saying for so many years it's been coming home, and now I really believe it. The Lux winner.
Once again, England had dug deep and held their nerve, and now within touching distance of a second successive Euros final. Well, millions of supporters back home watched the drama unfold. Dan Johnson was with some fans in Bristol.
The first half wasn't really worth watching.
It's absolutely shocking. They should be doing a lot better with what the players they got. It's really bad.
And Switzerland scoring didn't help the mood.
And the crowd was silent.
Georgie was just telling me how poorly England were playing when the equaliser brought the Port of Bristol Community Sports Club to life. But extra time slid towards the inevitable, the perennial purgatory of penalties.
We've got a minute and a half left.
And then penalties.
Yeah.
How are you feeling about that?
Very nervous.
I don't want it, no. But I think it's going to go to there.
Even if it goes to penalties, I think we'll still win it as well.
England scored. Switzerland missed.
It's not on the script, but we're going to do it. We're going to do it.
We all have ways of managing the pressure, but England just kept hitting home. A third, a fourth, 5 solid penalties.
I told you he'd win it on penalties, didn't I? I just knew it. Well done. Thank you very much indeed.
Say, football's coming home.
And so that's what they sing. But the England team isn't, not yet. Dan Johnson, BBC News, Bristol.
A win here then that will be remembered, I think, for the courageous way in which Bukayo Saka exercised those demons from that shootout defeat in the final of the last Euros 3 years ago. England aren't yet producing the attacking flair that many of their fans hoped for and expected at these Euros, and yet they're finding a way to prevail, whether it's topping the group or that remarkable last gasp comeback against Slovakia and now this shootout triumph. They're finding a way. They are effective. Gareth Southgate's yet to win anything with this side, of course, but he's now through to a third semi-final in 4 major tournaments. No other England boss can match that kind of consistency. Yes, at times they are laboured, but there's no doubt there's a resilience to his team as well. And if they can beat the Netherlands in the semi-final in Dortmund on Wednesday night, they will have the chance to play in a first ever final at an overseas major tournament. History now beckons.
Dan, thank you. Dan Rowan reporting there. Now to our other main story tonight, and Sir Keir Starmer has said his party's landslide victory in the election has provided a clear mandate for change in all 4 nations of the UK, but that changing the country would not be an overnight exercise. He was speaking at his first press conference as Prime Minister after chairing his first cabinet meeting. Here's our political editor, Chris Mason.
Is this the day you dreamt of, Deputy Prime Minister? There was a first day at school vibe in Downing Street this morning. Is it quite something to have the red folder? Is it good to be back?
Good to be back.
An excitement and pride from those now at the top of government, heading in for a cabinet meeting. Levity, yes, but a sense of the gravity of all this too.
It was the honour and privilege of my life to be invited by the King, His Majesty the King yesterday, to form a government.
So what do you want from the new government? Here are some folk in Bury in Greater Manchester.
Honesty, just plain and simple honesty. And I'd like every politician to do a professional job.
The priorities needs to be a massive increase in budgets, and that's throughout all of the education sector.
More focus on our borders, border control, another system, disabled. I work with disabled adults.
Levelling up for the north. Really, we're a bit fed up of our tired trains.
At lunchtime, a news conference from the new Prime Minister.
Afternoon, and thank you very much for coming. Yesterday, the work of change began. We're a Change Labour Party, and yesterday we started the work of changing the country.
You've said that change can't be delivered by flicking a switch, but plenty of people might want lots of switches flicked pretty quickly. And so I wonder how soon you can actually start delivering concrete change.
I'm restless for change, and I think and hope that what you've already seen demonstrates that, not least the appointment yesterday of Patrick Vallance and James Timpson, 2 individuals who are associated with change and delivery.
Sir Patrick Vallance used to be the government's chief scientific advisor.
We're addicted to punishment.
James Timpson of the high street key cutting and shoe mending business is known for hiring ex-offenders and had this to say recently on those who end up in jail.
We have 85,000 people in prison. It's going to go up to 100,000 pretty soon. A third of them should definitely be there. There's another third in the middle which probably shouldn't be there, but they need some other kind of state support. A lot of them have got massive mental health issues. They've been in prison, in and out of prison all their lives. And then there's another third, and there's a large proportion of women. Prison is a disaster for them.
And how difficult it is.
The Prime Minister didn't endorse his minister's words explicitly, but didn't distance himself from the sentiment either.
The Prison Minister has huge experience here and has invested a huge amount over many years in relation to prisons, and that's why I wanted to make that appointment. We do need to be clear about the way in which we use prisons. We need to get away from the fact that for so many people come out of prison, they're back in prison relatively quickly afterwards. That is a massive problem.
Oh God, I should put my...
Meanwhile, Conservatives are pondering what the future looks like this weekend, and a recurring question.
Nice to see you. Are you going to be the next Tory party leader?
No announcements. We've just got to take our time. We've got to figure out what's the situation.
Are you up to the challenge? I'm sure it'll be quite a difficult job.
It's been a really bad result. There's no two ways about it.
Back in number 10, that sense of novelty.
Have you unpacked yet? Have you found your way around?
I've got a basic understanding of the rooms I've used so far here, and that's good, but there are plenty of hidden places I'm yet to discover. And no, we're not unpacked quite yet, but we will be soon, and we'll be moving in soon.
The address is very familiar, but for him and for the rest of us, much that is new to get used to. Chris Mason, BBC News, Westminster.
I'm joined by our senior UK correspondent, Seema Katecha. Seema, back to this question of prisons. How bad is the situation?
Well, Rita, for months now, I've been speaking to people working in prisons, and they say that the system is in crisis, that at some point this month there will be no space. And if we take a look at the official figures, we can see that there are fewer than 1,500 free spaces across the estate in England and Wales. And I understand that prisons are using single occupancy cells in some instances to house 2 to 3 inmates because of the overcrowding problems. Now, as we heard in Chris's piece there, James Timpson is a real advocate of hiring offenders and says he thinks many people in prison shouldn't be there. At a time when overcrowding is the main issue facing our penal system, his previous comments indicate we may be looking at a minister here who will place more emphasis on community sentencing rather than custodial time. Now, that's likely to be popular with prison reformers, but much less so with those who argue for tougher and longer sentences.
Seema, thank you. And there were some more ministerial appointments tonight, among them the former Home Secretary Jackie Smith, who's been made a life peer and appointed as Education Minister, and former member of the Cabinet Douglas Alexander has been made a Business Minister. And the final general election result is in, and the Liberal Democrats have taken the seat of Inverness, Skye and West Rossshire from the SNP. Angus MacDonald was elected with a majority of over 2,000 votes after several recounts, taking the total number of seats for the Lib Dems to 72. And for more analysis on the election, here's what's coming up on Sunday with Laura Kunsberg.
A new government, a new cabinet and a new Tory leader on the way. After you voted, everything's changing. See you at 9 in the morning on BBC One.
Time now for all the rest of the sport. Let's go to Lizzie Greenwood-Hughes. Lizzie.
Good evening. Andy Murray has now played his final game at Wimbledon after his mixed doubles partner Emma Raducanu, who's still in the singles, pulled out before their match today. A decision Murray's mum Judy described as astonishing. Our correspondent Joe Wilson rounds up the action.
All week, Wimbledon has been dominated by goodwill for Andy Murray. Tributes, thank yous, farewells. He wanted to play tennis. There were 2 sets and defeat in the men's doubles on Thursday. When he left the court then, we believed he'd be back. So did he. Emma Raducanu had expressed excitement at playing mixed doubles with Andy Murray, but hours before their scheduled match, she said stiffness in her wrist meant she couldn't take part.
Naturally, that decision caused widespread disappointment here. Andy Murray's mum used the word astonishing. Well, Emma Raducanu's priority is the women's singles. Andy Murray has the Olympics to play and a full life to live.
We love the game equally, so much, and we would love to do it forever. He said that on court, and I share that opinion completely. I think he will see once he's on the other side actually what a great decision it probably will be for his life, for his body, for his mind as well, to get away from it.
Novak Djokovic is not done yet. Experienced enough to know that when centre court erupted at 7:40, people were monitoring a certain football match. Penalty shootout? He guessed right. Alexei Popyrin in goal. It actually took Djokovic over 3 hours to get past the Australian. That's the way, Dad. End of the road for British players Cameron Norrie and Harriet Dart, composing herself, both defeated in the 3rd round. And look at this, closest to the camera, Iga Swiatek, knocked out by Yulia Putintseva of Kazakhstan. That's how it feels to beat the #1 seed. Joe Wilson, BBC News, Wimbledon.
Now, on a busy but disappointing day of rugby union internationals, England narrowly missed out on a very rare victory over the All Blacks in New Zealand. Beaten 16-15 in Dunedin. Wales also lost in Australia to slump to an all-time low in the world rankings, and Ireland were beaten by South Africa. Scotland are playing Canada right now. It's been an extraordinary day of qualifying for the British Grand Prix at Silverstone because for the first time, the top 3 fastest drivers were all British. George Russell led the way to take pole position ahead of Lewis Hamilton and Lando Norris. Championship leader Max Verstappen will start 4th on the grid. England's women's cricketers have thrashed New Zealand in their opening T20 international, fielding an experimental lineup. England won by a huge 59 runs in Southampton. It follows their victory in the one-day series. That's it from me, but you can watch the England highlights on the BBC Sport website. Back to you, Reeta.
Thank you very much, Lizzie. And that is also it from me this evening. Good night.